Okay, so you're going to high school. When did you first hear about Whitey Bulger?
Wow, I heard about Whitey when I was a young boy, and my uncle, his brother used to run around with Whitey when they were kids, and they used to rob trucks together and hijack trucks and everything else. So Whitey was a friend of the family, if you would. And then eventually, when I was 15 years of age, or 16, about 15, sorry, and I was boxing and all that with all the guys from the gym, and they were older guys that were involved with Whitey at that time. And I was gravitating to those guys because not only were they, tough guys and good boxers, but they were in illegal activities, but they were making plenty of money. And they had the power, they had the money, and I gravitated towards that because I didn't have anything. I didn't have a father. And I looked up to these guys that were older than me as father figures.
And Whitey was known as the mayor of Southie.
Yeah, and there's no doubt about it. I mean, Whitey was he was a very special individual, if you would. Everybody looked at Whitey like he was the man, if you will. And he was at the time. I mean, some people, if they had problems in the neighborhood, instead of going to the cops, they'd go to Whitey, and Whitey would go out of his way sometimes and just squash it for them,
So he essentially was the boss of the Irish mob.
He was.
Okay. And like you said, his older brother was the president of the Massachusetts Senate.
And he was stronger than the governor.
Oh.
Billy Bulger was stronger than the governor.
Right. So you have this powerful mob boss and this powerful politician, and they're brothers.
Exactly.
Kind of crazy.
It doesn't get any stronger in Massachusetts than that at the time.
In the book, you had talked about Whitey had done some prison time allegedly for a sex crime, but he didn't really want to talk about it.
Yeah, but his real crime was robbing banks throughout the Midwest and stuff like that. And that's what he went away to Alcatraz for, and Atlanta also.
Okay, but was there any sex crimes that he was doing?
Not that I know of.
Okay, but there was something in the book that kind of implied
that. Not that I know of.
Well, before you got to know Whitey, a war had broken out in Boston called the Killeen-Mullen War?
Yep, that is correct.
Okay, explain what that war was about.
Well, it was a fraction of two different groups of men. And, one guy got in a problem with a woman, and the woman, he grabbed the woman, and then another guy, it was his girl, and he was from another fraction. And it all started with that, and a lot of guys died during that time.
Right, so Colleen was a loan shark, and Whitey worked for him.
Yes, Whitey was younger than him, and he was up and coming at that time.
Okay, so Whitey worked for Colleen, but then there was another Irish rival called the Mullen Gang, which was led by Tommy King.
That is correct.
And a war broke out between them, and Tommy had a connection to the Winter Hill Gang.
That is correct.
Right? So that's kind of how this war sort of broke out, and it was over a woman.
Yes.
Okay, but at one point, they kind of settled their differences and came together?
They settled differences. Differences were settled, and Whitey ended up with the Winter Hill Gang and Howie Winters, and along with Stevie Flemmy.
Okay, so then
the rifleman.
Sorry, go ahead.
Along with Stevie Flemmy, the rifleman.
Okay, so Tommy King and Whitey Bulger became bosses.
Well, Tommy King had his own gang, and Whitey was with the Winter Hill Gang, and eventually Whitey ended up taking out Colleen, and then he ended up taking out Tommy King.
Right, and after the dust settled, and there were 6 murders, Whitey basically became the boss.
Whitey became the boss of everything.
So you yourself, you're not part of all this yet.
No.
You're still going to high school, but then you drop out in the 10th grade.
That is correct.
And that's when you start getting into crime?
Well, that's when I was, I was doing things before that. I was, robbing trucks and stuff like that, and stuff, and selling marijuana at that time. And then eventually I get into the cocaine business. But that wasn't until a little later.